I've always been a Disney parks fan. Ever since I was a kid, we always visited the Disney parks. As far as I was aware, these were the best parks in the world. But in school, one of my friends who had been to Universal said, "Hey, Mr. YumYum, shut up, Mr. YumYum. Quit talking about Disney, Mr. YumYum. Disney's lame. Universal's where it's at. They've got Transformers, they've got Jaws, they've got the Hulk coaster." So part of me was always very curious to visit Universal Park, and I finally got the opportunity to do this. My family went on a trip to Japan to visit Tokyo Disneyland, Tokyo Disney Sea, and last but not least, Universal Studios Japan. So come along with me for my first ever experience at a Universal Studios park. We took the bullet train down to Osaka, which was a very exciting experience. I've always wanted to do that, and it was amazing watching the scenery pass me by on the train, zipping down from Tokyo to Osaka. We stayed across the road at the Hotel Universal Port Vita, which was a beautiful hotel themed to the Minions. This place is awesome, the rooms were fantastic, and of course it's right across the road from Universal Studios. And Citywalk. Citywalk is the sort of shopping and dining precinct directly outside of the park, which is a really cool spot. As the name implies, it definitely has that very inner city vibe, and there's so much to look at and so much to do here. It's a really cool spot, a really cool place with lots of food offerings and shops and things. It's a great introduction to the park. There's a lot of good stuff to eat here as well, which I'll come back to later. Approaching Universal Studios Japan, you get a fantastic first impression with the iconic archway, and of course, one of the park's most iconic attractions, Hollywood Dream, which looks incredible. It's an amazing, beautiful B&M coaster. Of course, you pass by the iconic Universal Studios Globe, which is a fantastic photo opportunity. This is a really lovely spot and very popular. It was very interesting visiting this park because it was so busy compared to the parks that I'm used to in Australia, which honestly to me seem busy sometimes as they are, but coming here was on a whole different level. There's gigantic queues to get into the park. You have to go through security, they scan your bags, make sure you're not bringing anything that's not water into the park, and then after all of that you have to head to the gate itself and scan your tickets. And the staff here are so friendly, they're really enthusiastic, and they put in such a big effort, even if you don't speak Japanese, if you're a foreigner, to give you a warm welcome. I thought the staff were incredible. It was kind of surreal seeing this in real life because I've watched a lot of videos of Universal Studios parks, and I thought I had a good idea of what the park would be like, but actually being here in real life, quite different than I anticipated. In my mind, I had sort of built it up to be on par with Disney parks, but it wasn't quite on the same level. Don't get me wrong, it was very impressive, but it didn't have quite the same magic vibe that Disney parks have. And I think a large reason for that is because for this park in particular, it sort of leans more into an interpretation of the very American Hollywood Boulevard style vibe. And rather than having sort of film suites or film score music playing, which was what I was expecting, they had more pop music, which I wasn't crazy about. That was kind of jarring for me. I wasn't a huge fan of that on my first visit. It's very difficult to capture the vibe of a place through video, because when you're actually there's a lot of sensations that you can't experience anywhere else other than real life, such as the sounds, smells, the temperature, just the general vibe. And although it wasn't on the same level as Disney, it definitely had a very cool atmosphere. Despite my gripes about the music and things, my first impressions were that I was very impressed. The main street area is really cool. It's covered up, which is fantastic because when it rains you don't have to worry, and it's also shade from the sun. There's a lot of stuff to look at and do here as well. There's lots of shops and restaurants and things, and it does get very busy. It's a little bit of a gridlock traffic sometimes. There's lots of characters doing meet and greets as well around the place, which is really cool. It's not the biggest park in the world. In fact, it's quite small, all things considered. And although it's a smaller park, there is a lot to do. So I'll try my best to break it down section by section and work my way through all the attractions that we experienced during our trip. Starting off with the big boy Hollywood Dream, which was one of my most anticipated attractions and the one I was most terrified of, because I really like roller coasters, but I'm not a huge thrill seeker. I know to most of you this probably doesn't look like the most intimidating ride, but to me it was. So it took me a little bit of courage to work my way up onto this, but I'm really glad that I did because it was a fantastic experience. It's a very unique ride because you actually choose the music that you listen to. As you board the train, there's a number of tracks to choose from. Some of them are Western pop music, some of them are Japanese songs. I can't remember the songs that I chose songs, but they were very catchy and very enjoyable. And I think that all the songs available are actually the same tempo, so as you're experiencing the coaster, you're enjoying music that's the same tempo as the other people, so it doesn't mismatch, and a lot of it is in time with the coaster itself. Again, the staff were super enthusiastic, and although we didn't speak much Japanese, they were very energetic and excited to make some music suggestions. One guy in particular was very enthusiastic about Michael Jackson. He said, "You've got to choose Michael Jackson." The ride itself does have pretty strict policies in terms of what you can bring onto the ride itself. You can't bring your phone, you can't bring anything in your pockets really. They actually scan you down with like body scanners, and you have to empty all your stuff out, and it's quite a tedious process, which is quite surprising because the ride has such fantastic operations. I don't know how they do it, but they still get the trains going out every 30 seconds or so, and they don't let the tedious requirements get in the way at all. Overall, the experience on this attraction was very memorable, to say the least. Choosing your own soundtrack for the coaster experience was a very unique choice, and climbing up the lift hill and listening to whatever Japanese track I was listening to, and the music rising as you approach the top of the lift hill and go down the drop, and then hitting the chorus, it was an amazing sensation, and you get incredible views from up there. Both times I went on Hollywood Dream, we rode it at nighttime, and you get some fantastic views of Osaka, the park, and Citywalk, and that first drop is quite intense. I wasn't fully expecting it to be that intense, and it caught me by surprise. But after that, it was just a wild ride. There's some truly insane amounts of ejector air time on this ride. You launched out of your seat multiple times, and I had such a blast. I was just laughing the entire time. I highly recommend Hollywood Dream. Moving along next, past Hollywood Dream, we made our way to the Jaws ride, which is kind of a gem in Universal Studios parks around the world, because this is the last actual version of the Jaws ride itself. At some of the other parks, they have the Jaws experience on the studio backlot tour, but this is the only version in the world where you can enjoy the original experience, and this thing was awesome. I absolutely love this ride so much. You board a little tour boat with a very enthusiastic skipper who takes you through this cute little coastal town, and it all goes horribly wrong when they get a message from one of their fellow skippers that Jaws the shark is on the prowl. He's attacking boats, and it's all very tense and scary. As a huge film fan, this was such a blast. I love this thing so much, and the animatronic for the shark itself was so impressive. There's a few moments throughout the ride where it leaps out of the water at you. The whole boat screams and panics. The skipper's trying to shoot at it, and then you go into a shed, and the shark bumping into things, knocking things down. It's very scary, very spooky. There's huge explosion effects, and a great grand finale where the skipper defeats the shark. Such an awesome ride. You'd have to do this on your visit. Moving past Jaws, there's the Jurassic Park area of the park, which is really cool. It's sort of constructed around the main attraction of the space, which is the flying dinosaur roller coaster, which I absolutely will never go on. I'm terrified of this thing, and it's supposed to be very intense, but it is very impressive. It's extremely photogenic and cool looking ride. Unfortunately, on this visit, the Jurassic Park water ride was actually closed for maintenance, so we weren't able to experience it on this trip, but we did get to enjoy it on another future trip, which I'll make a separate video on, so stay tuned for that. Also in this area, they have a cool dinosaur show in this little courtyard area, which is really cool. They have these amazing costumes, which look super convincing. It's almost like you're actually seeing real dinosaurs in real life. It's very awesome. There are a couple of restaurants here as well, and we enjoyed a meal at one of them, or we tried to. It didn't fully go to plan because a member of my family has some allergies to seafood, and I tried my best with my limited Japanese throughout the trip to make sure that everything she was eating was safe and wouldn't kill her, and I thought I was doing a decent job until we came here, because despite the fact that her meal didn't appear to have any seafood inside of it on the menu or listed anywhere or mentioned at all, as she was eating, we noticed in the salad there were some little shrimps, which was a terrible surprise and gave me a bit of a panic attack because I had never been around when they've had an allergic reaction before, and I've only heard stories about how terrible they've been, so I was really worried and terrified, kind of on red alert, waiting for something to happen. Thankfully, she was all fine, but I felt pretty stressed out, and it sort of ruined that particular day of our visit because of the amount of stress I felt. So that's an important thing to remember when you visit parks around the world. It's probably good to make sure with the staff that there's absolutely no traces of anything that you're allergic to in the food. Other than that, terrible experience. The Jurassic Park area is amazing. It's such a cool place, and probably a better time to visit when the Jurassic Park water ride is open, which I'll come back to in a future video. so. But if you are a thrill seeker, apparently the Flying Dinosaur is a must-do. It's one of the coasters that's on a lot of people's bucket lists around the world. People make their way to Japan specifically for this ride. I'm just not one of them. Moving past the Jurassic Park area, there's the Waterworld show, which was highly anticipated. I've heard nothing but good things about this, and although I haven't ever seen the Waterworld movie, I am a huge fan of the movie that it's inspired by. I'll put heavy quotation marks around the word inspired. It's basically a blatant ripoff. It's Mad Max, but water instead, and I love Mad Max. Mad Max Fury Road is one of my favorite action films of all time, so I was excited to see something with a similar vibe. And this show is very popular. There's a huge line to get in. It's probably worth getting here ahead of time so you don't have to get trapped in the crowds. And it has a pretty intense pre-show because the villains of the show actually come out and waterboard the audience with these hoses and buckets, and if you're sitting in the front of the audience, you're gonna get wet. Thankfully, I wasn't, because I would have cried, because my camera is not waterproof. I would have been very upset if someone splashed the water over me. But it was funny to watch other people get splashed, even though I would rather not be in their shoes. The show itself is insane. This is a mind-blowing experience. This is one of the things you have to do at this park. It's on a whole different level from any other theme park entertainment I had seen around the world, or any stunt show. This was so impressive. I can't even really begin to explain how cool it actually is. There's so many amazing effects. The stunts are incredible, the jet skis, the boats and everything, and the grand finale with the plane that crashes out of the wall and lands in the water with a big splash. Amazing. After Waterworld is one of my absolute highlights of the whole park, the Super Nintendo area, and during the time we visited, I believe this was like a time-limited access sort of area. You had to kind of book ahead of time, and you only had a certain allocated amount of time within the space because it's so popular, and it's in such a narrow area that the traffic gets insane. They kind of have to limit how many people can actually enter here. So this was super exciting. As you enter and scan your tickets or whatever, the staff encourage you to say one of Mario's catchphrases, "Here we go," or "Let's go," which is so fun. You enter through one of the pipes and come out in the overworld from Mario. There's lots of awesome things here if you're a fan of Nintendo and Mario games. I grew up playing Mario 64 on the Nintendo DS, and they had the paintings from that game, which was so cool. And of course you've got all the characters and enemies from the game. This is such an immersive little space. You almost feel like you're in a different world, and it's so incredibly well done. The theming really surrounds you and towers above you. It's not very big, but it is very immersive. You can see Princess Peach up at the top here, and there's some stairs leading down below into the main area where you can meet Mario, Luigi, and Toad. Toad was a crowd favorite. Everyone loves Toad. So cute, so silly. There's two rides to do in the Nintendo area. There's Mario Kart and the Yoshi ride. At the time we were visiting, the Donkey Kong area was very close to opening. Unfortunately, we just missed the opening for this, but we did get to enjoy it on our latest trip, so I'll come back to that next time. Starting off, there's the Yoshi ride, which is a lot of fun. We went on this a couple of times. The first time we had to wait for a very long time. We were in the queue for about almost 2 hours, I think. It was a very, very long amount of time for a ride like this. It was definitely worth it. It's a very cute and unique ride. I love how it's integrated into the land itself. You get amazing views. This is one of the few rides at the Universal Studios Japan that you can actually film on. They've got a very strict no filming policy, but thankfully on this one you can film, and I'm really grateful for that. I did grow up playing Yoshi's Island on the Game Boy Advance, so it was really nostalgic and heartwarming hearing the lovely music and seeing the characters brought to life. But the main attraction in this place that I was excited for was the Mario Kart attraction, which is a very unique attraction around the world. There's nothing else quite like it. Obviously themed to the Mario Kart games, which I'm a massive fan of, and you'd think racing, it must be a fast ride, it must be a roller coaster, right? Bah, incorrect. It's a dark ride with AR goggles. I wasn't sure how I felt about that. It was a strange first impression when I found out that the ride was going to be like this, but watching videos, it's got some very cool theming, so I was excited to give this a go. We did get the fast passes for this attraction, and even then we had to wait quite a while to actually get on the attraction itself. Pick up your goggles, which are like Mario's hat, and honestly, I'm not a huge fan of this. I'm very skeptical when it comes to technology like this interacting with a dark ride or anything that's meant to be immersive, because more often than not, I've found that screens take me out of the experience more so than they actually increase the enjoyability. But I was open-minded, I was willing willing to give this a shot, and unfortunately the AR didn't really improve the experience at all. In fact, it sort of detracted from the experience for me personally, because rather than focusing on the theming, I was focusing on all the stuff in your face. There's so much stuff going on and all these graphics and things flashing in your eyes. You can't fully enjoy the experience unless you've got some like heightened awareness, which I don't. I've got ADHD and this was sort of a nightmare for me. Like just endless, oh look, oh this thing's flashing, oh look another thing, woo woo, just hurts my head. I can't process anything when there's so much stuff going on. It was distracting. It kept getting in the way. It was annoying. I didn't like it, but I tried to look past it and enjoy the practical theming of the ride, the dark ride experience, which was actually really cool. There's a lot of really impressive theming in here and some great stuff, which I'm a big fan of. I don't know if it's an option to experience this ride without the AR. To me, that sounds like a much more enjoyable experience. Don't get me wrong, it's a very impressive attraction, and if you love overstimulation, this is probably the ride for you. Overall, my impressions of the Nintendo area, they definitely exceeded my expectations. I didn't quite fully anticipate how immersive it would actually feel, especially in comparison to the rest of the park where you do see a lot of the skyscrapers and things around. You feel like you're in your own little world here, which I'm a big fan of. I wasn't crazy about how busy it was. It was so busy here, and it was very difficult to get around. Everyone's obviously very excited to visit this place, rightfully so. It's an awesome spot to go, but often you find yourself blocked by people taking selfies or photos in the most inconvenient spots you could imagine, at the top of the stairs, in entranceways and things. It's kind of just a pain in the ass to get around, to be honest, when it's busy, but still definitely worth checking out for the very impressive theming, especially if you're a Nintendo fan. Let's head back to some of the other areas around the park. Let's go to the Despicable Me area, and I have to be honest, I'm not the biggest Despicable Me fan in the world. I can understand why it's popular, it's not quite for me, but this was a nice little area. I think if you're a fan of the films, or if you're a younger guest, this will definitely appeal to you. There's a lot of really cute stuff, lots of tasty looking food, and there is a motion simulator Minions ride, which was very unique. This was quite immersive. You enter a little vehicle thing. I don't really understand what's going on, but it was very well done, and made me very motion sick. If you get motion sickness, I don't recommend this ride. While we're on the topic of illumination related attractions, there is also a Sing theater show, which again, I'm not a huge fan of Sing. I'm not a huge fan of illumination films, to be honest. They're just not my cup of tea. I don't think they're bad, they're just not for me. But this show, on the other hand, I really liked. I thought this was very well done and very entertaining. It's got a fantastic pre-show, which is sort of a one-shot, long-take, Birdman-style little film showing the cast and crew for the show trying to get ready and everything's going wrong, and it's very silly and very fun. The show itself is very entertaining. There's very talented performers, and it's just a lot of fun to watch. I definitely recommend checking this one out. Universal Studios Japan does also have a kids area which is themed to a variety of different kids shows and characters, from Peanuts and Snoopy to Hello Kitty and Sesame Street. This is a great little area for the younger guests. There's a lot of really fun, cute looking attractions, and funny story, apparently part of this space was actually originally themed to Wizard of Oz, of all things, which was so fascinating to me. I didn't realize this on my first visit, but Theme Park Ogre recently told me about this, and I'm trying to imagine each of the attractions here in their Wizard of Oz forms. We didn't go on any of the rides here, but we did enjoy some foods at the Snoopy themed restaurant, which was very nice. Some very cute dishes available here. You can eat Snoopy's head, for example, which was very tasty, but I felt quite guilty about this. And last but not least, the final area we visited is the Harry Potter area, which was definitely one of my most anticipated areas of the park. I grew up watching the Harry Potter films. I'm a big fan of the visual aesthetic and a lot of the filmmakers that were involved in the franchise. So this was really, really cool seeing this in person. It's super impressive, and it's very busy as well. Obviously, Harry Potter is a super popular franchise around the world, and it's kind of gridlock here too. It's similar to the Nintendo area. This is quite hard to actually fully enjoy because often you're navigating the crowds and trying to not get slammed to the ground by people rushing past. The theming is super impressive. There's so much attention to detail, and it's very immersive. Fantastic music, obviously. Lots of shops to check out and things to do. There's a gigantic line for the butterbeer, which was high in demand. I've always wanted to try butterbeer as well, so I was looking forward to this. We enjoyed a meal inside the restaurant here, which was also very busy. It's hard to get a table inside here, but somehow we managed to, after waiting for a long time. And the food here was fantastic. Probably some of the nicest food I had in the park. And in the outside area, you get some fantastic views of Hogwarts, the castle, which was very cool, by the water. There's a show area with some entertainment that you can enjoy. Both the shows we saw here were awesome, featuring some very talented performers and some very cool costumes, such as the Hippogriff. Speaking of the Hippogriff, there's a little kiddie coaster, Flight of the Hippogriff, right behind the show area, which was a very cute little ride. I enjoyed this quite a lot. It was very smooth and pleasant. Not the longest ride in the world, and if you only have one day at Universal, I'm not sure I would recommend waiting the crazy queue times for this attraction without the Fast Pass. And for the main event of the Harry Potter area, of course, is the Forbidden Journey, the ride inside Hogwarts itself. I didn't know anything about this ride. I hadn't seen any POVs, I hadn't really heard any information. It was incredible. This is probably my favorite attraction at the park. This thing is insane. I didn't know what to expect, and I think that's the greatest way to experience this attraction because it's truly unlike anything else I've ever ridden. It's sort of a mixture between a flying theater and a motion simulator. I don't even know how to describe it. We did get to enjoy this a few times, and we had a terrifying ride experience because the ride actually broke down in the Dementor section of the ride, of all places. We got trapped right in front of a Dementor, and the ride vehicle had us in a very strange position where we were mid-air leaning back with a Dementor staring in our face. We were there for about 5 minutes or so, and then the rest of the ride continued with, I think the music was turned off and some of the effects were out of sequence and things, but thankfully after we got off that, the staff immediately let us back on the ride to experience it in its full glory. The Harry Potter area is very impressive. It definitely lives up to the hype, I think. If you can magically cast a spell and get there when it's not so busy, I think you'll have a better time. So that's all the main areas and rides of the park, but there were still a few more highlights from our visit that I really enjoyed. They've got like a New York kind of area with some really talented performers that do a drumming sort of show, which was really cool. I love any kind of street performance or theme park shows like this, especially when they have this spontaneous energy that feels like it's sort of just happening in the street in front of you out of nowhere. I think that was really cool. There was also a Kuromi show, which I didn't get to see up close because it was so popular, but I did see it from afar. And Kuromi is like evil Hello Kitty from my very anecdotal knowledge of the Hello Kitty lore, which I don't have much of, so don't kill me please, Hello Kitty people. But this looked like a lot of fun. And one of the unexpected highlights of our trip was enjoying a meal in the Irish pub. This was a sit-down dining option that we had to reserve a table for, and I was not prepared for how magical this experience was. Inside, it was all themed to Christmas, and it was so magical and so festive. Lovely music playing and all the decorations and trees and everything, and the staff were incredibly hospitable and friendly. Some of the best service I've had in any restaurant around the world. Lovely experience. So that's my experience inside the park, but the Universal experience doesn't end because there's the Citywalk area, of course, which is a lot of fun to visit, and there's lots of fantastic restaurants to enjoy here. Some highlights that we experienced were Tully's, which is a coffee shop chain in Japan, similar to Starbucks. It's that kind of vibe, but Tully's is far superior. It's the alpha male big dog of the coffee shops. This place is really lovely. It's everything Starbucks portrays itself to be, but it's not. Starbucks puts on an appearance of this cozy, classy little cafe, and I've never found it quite lives up to the image. Tully's, on the other hand, super cozy, super comfy. Some nice jazz music playing, very relaxing space to spend time in. Another highlight in Citywalk was Saizeria, which is a sort of family restaurant chain in Japan, and somehow all the ingredients are actually made in Melbourne, Australia, of all places in the world. Saizeria is spectacular because it's dirt cheap and the food is decent, and after a long day at a theme park with expensive food prices and long wait times, this is really all you need. When I say cheap, I don't know if you fully understand what I mean, because cheap in Australia means one thing, but cheap here is a different story because you can get like a pizza for about $3 or a bowl of pasta for like $3. You can get unlimited drinks for about 90 cents. This place is insane. It's definitely a great place, one of our highlights from our trip. And on that note, that brings us to the end of my trip to Universal Studios Japan. What did I think? Did I enjoy it? Was I a fan? I really loved visiting Universal Studios Japan. I thought it's a brilliant park. It definitely lives up to the hype. There's a lot of fantastic attractions and highlights at the park. It is very busy, and some aspects of the visit were frustrating, such as the almost allergic reaction experience and some of the queue times and everything. But other than that, I think it's definitely worth visiting this park. I'm super grateful that I was able to come here. I'm very fortunate because a lot of people don't ever get the opportunity to visit these places, so I feel super lucky that I was able to come here. Not once, but twice, because I did come back, as I mentioned a couple of times during the video, and I got to experience a few of the attractions I didn't get to enjoy on this trip, and we also visited during Halloween time, so we got to meet the zombies and have that whole experience, and I'm very excited to share that in a separate video. But for now, I wanted to give my initial thoughts on the park, and I look forward to sharing my next visit with you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. A big thank you to the members and sponsors of Team YumYum: Randall, Maloney's Coasters, Kai on the Internet, Oogie Boogie, Theme Park Ogre, Jordan Casey, Johnny Boy 175, The Downy Cat, Mika, Carrie Jackin, Smathmo the Awesome, Aston, Breezy, Koala 75, Audrey Allen, Senpai's JP Blue Dog, Senpai's JP Red Dog, Wayne Hewitt, Lee Donald, SW Stevie 1, The Kez, Lexi Marie, and the latest member of Team YumYum, Jacqueline Bees. Thank you so much again for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.